Most people think burnout happens because they don't have enough time, too many tasks, too many meetings, too many responsibilities. So they try to fix it by resting more, taking a few days off, sleeping in on the weekend. But then Monday comes and the exhaustion returns. That's because burnout is rarely a time problem. It's a boundary problem. And once you see that, everything starts to make sense. Here's the confusing part about burnout. You can take time off and still feel tired. You can sleep 8 hours and still feel drained. Because burnout isn't just physical exhaustion, it's emotional and mental depletion. It happens when your energy is constantly being accessed without protection. Not when you're busy, but when you're always available. Think of your energy like a phone battery. If you have apps running in the background all day, it doesn't matter how long you charge it at night. It's still going to die quickly. Those background apps are the constant notifications, the mental load of other people's problems, the feeling that you have to be on all the time. Rest charges the battery, but it doesn't close the apps that are draining it. That's why you can feel exhausted even when you haven't done much. It's the constant availability that drains you, not the activity itself. This is important. Some people work long hours and don't burn out. Others work less and feel completely empty. The difference isn't workload, it's boundaries. Burnout happens when work spills into your personal time, when other people's urgency becomes your responsibility. It happens when you feel guilty for resting or when you can't mentally disconnect, even when you're not working. It's not about how much you do, it's about how much you absorb. Imagine two people carrying buckets of water. One person carries 10 buckets from point A to point B, sets them down, and is done for the day. The other person only carries 5 buckets, but their buckets have tiny holes in them, leaking water all over them the entire time. By the end of the day, who is more soaked and miserable? The person with the leaky buckets. Burnout is the leaky bucket problem. It's the constant, slow drain of energy that you barely notice until you're completely soaked in exhaustion. Most burnout doesn't come from obvious overwork. It comes from invisible boundaries that don't exist. Answering messages immediately, even when you're exhausted. Saying yes when your body is already screaming no, carrying the emotional weight of a colleague's bad day or a client's stress. These small leaks drain your energy so slowly you might not even notice them. And because they're invisible, people blame themselves. They think, I should be able to handle this, or why am I so tired? They don't realize their energy is being siphoned off drop by drop. And here's the catch. Smart, capable people often burn out the fastest. Why? Because they're reliable, responsible, and accommodating. They're the go-to person, the one who always gets it done, which means their boundaries are tested more than anyone else's. High performers often don't have weak boundaries because they're careless. They have weak boundaries because they care. A lot they want to be helpful. They don't want to disappoint anyone. They often tie their sense of value to being dependable and available. So, for them, setting a boundary can feel uncomfortable, even selfish. It feels like they're letting someone down. But here's the reality. Without boundaries, performance becomes self-sacrifice. And self-sacrifice over a long period almost always turns into resentment. First, you resent the demands. Then, you might resent the people making them. And eventually, you might even resent the job you once loved. That resentment is the final stage before the system completely shuts down into burnout. Your greatest strength, your desire to contribute, becomes your biggest vulnerability when it's not protected by boundaries. This is where people misunderstand boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're about clarity. They create clarity around when you're available and when you're not. They clarify what you can realistically handle and what is not your responsibility to carry. Think of it like a fence around your yard, not a fortress. The fence doesn't mean you hate your neighbors. It just clearly marks where your property ends and theirs begins. It allows for healthy interactions at the gate. Healthy boundaries don't damage relationships. They prevent the silent exhaustion and resentment from damaging them later. It's about communicating your limits so you can keep showing up as your best self instead of a depleted, resentful version of yourself. So, what do healthy boundaries actually look like in real life? Often, they're quiet and simple. They sound like, "I'll get to this tomorrow morning," instead of staying up late. They sound like, "I don't have the capacity for this right now," instead of taking on another project when you're already overloaded, or simply, "I need some time to think before I can commit to that." Healthy boundaries look like not checking your work emails at 10 o'clock at night. They look like not feeling the need to write a 5-paragraph essay explaining why you do something. And they look like not responding immediately to every single message that comes your way. At first, setting these boundaries will feel uncomfortable. It's normal, but that discomfort is often the price of self-respect. It's the short-term cost for long-term sustainability and peace. Ultimately, burnout isn't proof that you're weak or incapable. It's feedback. It's a powerful signal from your mind and body saying, "Hey, something is being taken here without our consent. Our energy is being depleted and the system is unsustainable." When you learn to listen to that signal, instead of just trying to push through it with more coffee and less sleep, burnout becomes a turning point instead of a breakdown. It's an invitation to reevaluate what you're giving your energy to. It's your body's way of forcing you to check for those invisible leaks and finally start patching them up before you run completely dry. So, if you're feeling burned out, don't just ask yourself, "How can I get more time?" Instead, ask, "What boundaries am I missing?" Once you start protecting your energy, you'll find that work stops consuming you and starts fitting back into your life again, where it belongs. Thanks for watching, and if this helped, consider subscribing for more.